Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
What is happening, everybody? I'm Larry Roberts.
And I'm Sara, and this is Branded, your comprehensive guide to creative branding.
And on this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about the power of a personal brand and sharing some personal experiences on how having that strong personal brand has helped us over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, this is our first episode back in the studio in a little bit, because if you guys listened to our last episode, you'll know that Larry was dying and had to miss about a week of recording. So he's back now. And Larry, you are alive, and we're all very happy about it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. I realize that once you hit the age of 30 or maybe even 40, maybe even 50, I don't know, you can simply turn your neck and hurt yourself severely. Yeah, man. So, you alluded to it. I got on a plane. What was it? Last
Tuesday?
Monday? Was it last week? It was last week.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. There we go. Got on a plane on Tuesday morning to head to Tampa for a big speaking engagement at EO, or Entrepreneurs Organization's Nerve event. It was the biggest stage I'd ever had the opportunity to be on. There were some other big time celebrities that were on the stage that I would have shared the stage with. But I had done something coming back from Atlanta 3 days prior. I woke up and had some kind of weird crick in my neck type scenario, and I just kind of ignored it and chilled for Saturday and Sunday. Then Monday morning, I got up, and about 10 o'clock, the back of my neck just went on lockdown. And I mean, I had zero range of motion, couldn't move, couldn't walk, couldn't even stand up straight. But being the trooper that I am, I still jumped on that plane that Tuesday morning and went to Tampa, and immediately went to the hospital after getting off the plane. So I felt myself in the hospital for several days in excruciating pain. And if you're ever in Tampa, avoid going to go to Tampa General. That's supposedly the good one. But the other hospital where I went to, that's not the good one. So avoid
No,
that at
it's
all
not.
costs. So yeah, that was an interesting experience. But instead of getting on EO's massive stage, I was laid up in a hospital bed. So I did manage to get out, make my way back to the hotel for 2 days where I laid up, try to do some recovery there, but this has been such a long road. And then I came home last Saturday, and I've essentially been bedridden ever since. So starting to see some significant progress, and we're definitely getting back in the saddle, but it might be a little bit before we're 100%.
Slow but steady. We're waiting for you.
Well,
But
thanks.
one of the things I know that we wanted to talk about was with the power of personal branding. What actually happened once you ended up back at Nerve? Because you did stop by there because you weren't able to do your presentation. You actually had someone do it for you. But
Yeah, and I got to give mad props to
something
Mark Savant. So Mark just happened to be there as a content creator. He had a booth, and he was interviewing attendees. And I had known about Mark's involvement in AI. I know he's dabbling, and I knew he knew enough to potentially pull out this talk. And reached out to him. He stepped up and really saved the day. So he filled that spot and did a tremendous job. I haven't seen any footage myself, but everything that I've heard, everybody gives him high praise. So I got to say thank you once again to Mark Savant for doing that. And if you're not familiar with Mark Savant, check him out. He's available on all the platforms out there. He has a podcast called The After Hours Entrepreneur. So check him out.
But once you actually got there, you had mentioned to me something about you really saw the power of your personal brand because even though you weren't able to do that presentation, things were still happening. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was insane. Even though I didn't even go down there to the floor. Now I went back after I got out of the hospital. I did go to the hotel, and it's the same hotel where the event was being held because they were kind enough to have a room for me there to hang out in. Um, but once Mark took the stage, within like 15 minutes. I booked 7 or 8 different appointments, and it was just mind blowing that people were so anxious to hear me give the presentation. Even with Mark there doing it, the power of the brand of the red hat, and everything that's underneath the red hat that we've discussed over so many episodes, was still significant enough to actually land appointments, even though I wasn't on the stage. And then it really got driven home the next day, which was Friday. It was the last day of the event, and I wanted to go down. One of the gentlemen from EO, I've been wanting to meet him in person, and I just took a lot of drugs, and I went down there for lunch to get me some grub and meet with Greg. And it was so insane because as soon as I came out of the elevator and people started seeing the red hat, they were coming up to me going, "Oh, you were supposed to give the talk yesterday, right? You're the AI guy, right? Oh, can you tell me about this? Oh, okay, I want to talk to you about this. Oh." Before I knew it, I was literally surrounded by people asking me about AI and how they can work with me and how they can be a part of what we do here at Red Hat Media. Um, so much so that Greg, the gentleman I had gone down to meet, had to come in and run interference because I was just trying to get a sandwich and go to the table, and I could not make it to the lunch table to even sit down. And he came back twice. He came back with a nice little subtle hint, "Hey, we're sitting in here at this table in the main room there," just to let everybody around me know that, hey, this guy's trying to get to his table to eat lunch. But then after I couldn't break away again, he came back and he goes, "Hey, let me get that for you, brother." And he grabbed my plate, he grabbed my drink, and he walked it in there. And I finally, everybody's like, "Okay, okay, we're gonna let you go sit down." Because I mean, I was obviously in pain too, still limited, extremely limited range of motion in my neck, and but even out of that, I scored another 4 appointments. So just being there, and even stepping on the floor, people wanted to meet with me because of the power of the brand of the red hat. So I ended up walking away from an event where I didn't even get to speak with 11 appointments. So I thought that was pretty amazing and a tremendous testament to the actual power of a strong personal brand.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know how crushed you were that you weren't able to get on that stage. So I'm glad that something came out of it, and we are there's going to be many more opportunities coming up. So
Yeah, I
excited to
mean,
see them.
I hope so. I'm actually climbing on a plane tomorrow. This is coming out. What is today? Sunday.
Today's Sunday.
I am climbing on a plane tomorrow, even though I'm not 100% because I have another massive speaking engagement. So I can't miss this one too. So I'm gonna drug up real good and head down to San Antonio and give another talk and hope I don't tweak something while I'm down there.
Yeah, this one at least like I'll be in driving distance, so if I have to rescue you, I can.
Oh, that's a very good point. So now I feel a little more comfortable,
Yeah.
honestly.
Try
Yeah.
It's like I'm here if you need me, but like try not to need me, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Please don't bother me, but if you have to.
Like I'd rather you just like be fine.
Yeah, well, yeah, you and me both, I promise. So,
And while this was all happening, I was at FinCon in New
yeah,
Orleans. And that was interesting for me too, because it was different and the same for me at the same time, which sounds really weird, but it's like FinCon, like you're familiar with Podfest and podcast movement and how all of these podcast specific events, it's like everyone knows each other. It's kind of like that family reunion.
yeah,
And FinCon was always like that for me. And I would have people even like first timers who had never been there who I knew. They'd be talking to me and like, is there anyone you don't know? Because everyone who passes by says hi or waves, runs over, gives me a hug, keeps walking, whatever it is. And I'm just like, honestly, I probably know at least half of the people in attendance, either very personally or just like in passing. But at the same time, it was my first time attending FinCon as myself
yeah,
and by
yeah,
myself, because this is my first year of being an independent, like, business owner and having my own brand. So, it was like everybody there knew me, but I also kind of was in, like, a reintroduction because, like, they didn't know my brand, they only knew me as a person.
right.
Which, I mean, the 2 at this point are hand in hand, so it wasn't exactly a
But, y
major change,
even
but
at the same time when you were there representing a different company, you had already established a bit of a personal brand yourself. because and I was at FinCon, was it last year? I think it was.
Yeah.
And I saw this in action. And even when I would see you interact with people, they were interacting with you to interact with you. They didn't tend to interact with you to get more information or dig deeper into the company that you were representing. They were
Mhm.
digging deeper into Sarah and wanting to know more about you and wanting to know more about what you're doing and your brand and who you are and where you're going and what you got going on.
Yeah, and that's why, like, it was like, I say it was kind of a reintroduction, but it almost wasn't because my brand is me.
Yeah.
And, like, I've been very intentional about having my personal brand just a on paper representation of myself. So it was just like, "Oh, yeah, I just changed brand names." Like, I basically had, like, a very minor rebranding of just the name of the company, and everything else was the same. But it was cool. I mean, we me and you put out our, DIY, podcast launch workbook, and I had a
Yeah.
copy there that I got to talk to some people about, and, that was a lot of fun, and it was a really interesting event. I was on a panel, which was cool, with a couple really great creators and getting to talk about some of the topics that even we've talked about, which was really fun. One of the first questions I was asked was, "Why is it terrible to say, tell us about yourself when you're hosting a podcast?" And I was like, "I've done whole episodes about this question. I
Yeah.
hate this question."
That's our
So,
favorite question to hate.
but I did find, and I don't know why this surprised me, being on a panel is so much less stress.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my I don't know why I didn't start with these. That was my first ever panel.
Yeah, that's I highly recommend that if you're just getting started in your speaking career, you either go virtual because that's a lot
Mhm.
easier than standing on a stage in front of a room of a bunch of people,
Oh, yeah.
or you get on a panel. I'm pretty excited about the event that I've got coming up in a couple of days because, well, I'm starting off the morning. I'm the morning keynote on Tuesday morning, but so I got to make it through that hump. But then I also follow that up with a panel. So I'm speaking twice, but the panel, there's no pressure there because you're in a group of people that allows you to kind of get involved, but you don't have to carry the show.
Yeah, it was really nice because I remember every event, and you've seen this out of me, every event that I go to that I'm speaking at, up until I get off the stage, like, a month ahead of time up until it's over, I am just a walking ball of anxiety,
Oh yeah.
more so than normal. And this time I'm just like, "All right, I'm speaking tomorrow. Huh." And, like, I'm sitting at lunch with a bunch of people, and they're like, "Oh, what time do you have to be back at the venue for your presentation?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that's happening in 2 hours." And I'm just so zen, just eating my beignets, hanging out, like, everything's fine, and get on stage, everything's fine. I was able to answer all questions and, interact with the people that, like, were on my panel with me, and it was all so great and so stress-free.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Now
gotta
I
do
will
that
throw a
more
caveat.
often.
I will throw a caveat in there. If you're moderating the panel, that adds another layer of complexity. Um,
Yeah, shout out to Justin, Justin
yeah.
Peters, Simple Pot Studios. He did a fantastic job moderating to the point that he spent so much time making sure each of us on the panel got a fantastic introduction and seemed super professional that he didn't even say his own name.
Oh wow.
So the first like, he truly didn't tell us about himself. The first time he asked me a question, I'm just like, "Yeah, I'll answer that in a second, but first, can I introduce you? Because no one here even, like, got your name." So I actually interrupted to do an intro for him because he didn't do it himself.
That's too
But
funny, but that's tough, man, because, you wanna take your opportunity to shine a little bit too, even as the moderator, but just like
yeah.
you said, you wanna make sure that everybody that's on the panel gets their opportunity to shine as well, and it can be a little bit difficult, so if you do have the opportunity to moderate, I would recommend you sit on a couple of panels before you do.
Yeah, no, but, he did a great job, everyone on the panel did, and this isn't what we plan on talking about, but I kind of
Nope.
an interesting thing was discussed, and I wanna bring it up here too. One of the questions that he planned on asking, and we had kind of pre-planned that this would be a conversation because of the different views of it. We talked about paying to be on a podcast as a
Oh,
guest or charging guests to be on your show. And it was really interesting because two of the people on my panel come from the journalism world,
Okay.
and they cannot
Yeah.
charge.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
they
you'll
would
get,
l they'd lose their credibility, they'd lose their jobs.
yep,
They
they'd lose
cannot
their
do
job.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but someone else does charge, and he charges a good amount of money.
Yeah.
And so we had that conversation of, "Is this the right thing to do? Should you do it?" And I gave my view because I was kind of, like, in the middle, but, like, what do you think? What's yours?
Man, I'm torn. I'm really torn.
Yeah.
I've seen it where it's structured in a way that I kind of support it for charging to be on shows. But I don't know. You have to disclose it if you do. I mean, if you're charging somebody to be on the show, you're essentially creating an infomercial. So, from an ethical standpoint, they're paying to be on the show. They're paying to deliver their message. They're paying for airtime. They're literally buying a commercial. So, your audience needs to know that. There's some guesting platforms out there. We've discussed those in the past, but some of them are higher profile or higher end guesting sites, and you can pay thousands of dollars and land 15 to 30 minutes with a real A-list celebrity. But what does that do for you? What does that do for you as a content creator? And what's the value proposition there for you? Is that going to do anything to build your brand? So that's the question that always resonates with me. What's that doing for me? And that sounds like a selfish proposition, but if I'm paying out
So are you
money,
saying for charging, like, I mean, paying for the guest to come on your show? Like, you're
yeah,
paying your guests?
I'm
Okay.
saying for paying for guests to come on. So if
Okay.
I paid 5 grand and got a celebrity for 20 minutes, what is that doing to establish my brand? And I've seen so many times over the years, people think that the guests are going to make their show. It's going to build their brand because they have this. If I could just get this guest, this is my ideal guest. And if I land this guest, my show's going to explode and I'm going to be awesome. And I've just never seen that be the case. So if you're going to go down this path, you have to understand what the overall goal is and how it fits into your overall business plan. Because if you pay thousands of dollars for one guest, in order to maintain that consistency, you have to continue paying out thousands of dollars to get on bigger guests and those top tier celebrity type guests. So do you have the money to invest in that? Because doing it once isn't going to do anything for you whatsoever. You're going to see a spike
Mm-mm.
in your numbers most likely, but they're obviously going to drop right back down to when you start going back to having celebrities, non-celebrities as your guests.
Yeah, we mostly looked at it as charging to be on your show,
Hmm.
and that one I was, like, kind of in the middle on. I've never done it. I've never, like, paid to be on a podcast. I did pay, like, a skip the line
Yeah,
fee
yeah,
to
that's common.
just,
Yeah,
yeah, just to get my episode out quicker because the wait list was so long, and, I was like, "I don't even know what I'll be doing in a year. This might not be relevant." It was, like,
right,
50 bucks. "Oh, okay, whatever, I'll pay it." And the guy's even like, "Yeah, that's the editor's beer money, like, this isn't, like, a big thing for us."
right.
Um, if you like, podcasts are expensive, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it is, for the creator's part, it is an investment and it is an expense. I think if you're charging to, like, make up some of, like, what you're paying, I think it makes sense as long as you have the value, because then, like you said, it's paying for advertising, basically. It's like a marketing expense, but you need to be able to back that up with, like, you have the listeners, you have the views, you have all of this. And because if you're like, "Yeah, pay me $500 to be on my show, you're gonna get a guaranteed 3 downloads," no one's going to do that.
Right.
Like, that's not a good choice for
Well, see,
anybody.
from that perspective, I'm even considering doing that with my upcoming show. I mean, I've talked
Mhm.
about DFW Business Builders being a show that I'm putting together. We've got the trailer put together, and if I ever get fully back in the saddle, we're going to start recording. We were supposed to start recording this past week and I wasn't able to. So, but after I do one season and show the power of the show, we've discussed charging guests to come on the show because
Yeah.
it's a very, very niche market. It's a very local market. So, guests on the DFW Business Builders, if they're in Dallas or Fort Worth, they could gain some attention from being on that show. So that's all part of a business plan. But everybody would know that these particular guests they've paid to be on the show and they're there for talking about their business or talking about what they do for the community or spreading their messages or building their brands. I think as long as you take it from that perspective and you're upfront and honest and it's part of your business plan to charge guests, then I think from that perspective, it's okay. But going back to what I was saying earlier, if you're paying for guests just to try to build your own brand, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah, I actually have a friend whose business model centers around like people pay to be on the show, and it's very similar, just in a different locate. It's a different city, different state, but they bring on businesses. But what they give them is this like highly produced, high quality video product
Sure.
that that business can then use to market themselves. So you're basically just paying for a like a video crew to make you commercials.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
of course, you're gonna pay for that. Like,
Sure.
you're not gonna get that for free. If the free interviews are the ones that are on Zoom like this.
Yeah.
Like, you're not
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
studio, there's no, like, makeup artists, like, there's just you're sitting in your living room and you're talking to a camera.
Yeah.
But if you have it as, like, that's the plan, like, I think that makes total sense. But if it is just that you have a show that is popular and people wanna be on it so that they can reach your audience, yes, you can have them pay, but you still need to be very picky and you still need to be content forward. Because if someone's like, "Hey, I'll pay $1,000 to be on your show," and then they turn it into an infomercial,
Yeah.
that's not good content,
No.
and
No.
you're devaluing your show.
Yeah, I love the term that you use there, content forward. I think that has to be at the forefront of all of our thought processes, regardless of what we're doing. We have to be delivering good content in order to continue to build that solid brand. And so many times people tend to lose focus of the fact that you're still trying to build your brand,
Mhm.
and that content that's absolutely critical. So
Yeah, if you are accepting anybody willing to pay you and letting them do whatever they want with your show, you're gonna lose your show. Like, you're gonna lose your audience. Like I said, I just got back from FinCon, and the closing keynote was Joe Saul-Sehy, who's been on the show. He's a friend of ours, and one of the things that he said is, "You owe nothing to anyone except for your audience."
oh
And I loved that
yeah, yeah,
because, like, he was even talking about, like, with sponsorships and stuff, he's had sponsors say, like, "This is what we want you to say," and he's like, "I'm not gonna say that. Like, my audience isn't gonna resonate with this," or, like, "I owe my audience like, more than this."
right.
Because it's true, like, you don't owe anything when you are a content creator, when you are a podcaster, whatever you owe nothing to anyone except for that audience, because the audience is what you're working for. Like, if you're going to have sponsors, you're not gonna have them if you don't have an audience. If you're going to have great guests, they're not gonna wanna be on if you don't have an audience. Everything comes down to that audience. Always make sure you are putting that audience first, and it doesn't matter how much a guest is willing to pay if they're going to basically come on and make a mockery of the show.
Yeah.
You have to decide if that's worth it to you, and personally, I wouldn't think it is.
Well, hopefully everybody here today feels like we put them first, bring them up to date on all of our adventures, and then including this conversation, which I think is a very, very powerful conversation that as you mentioned, we didn't even have it planned, but hopefully some people got some value out of it. I missed us last week. Sorry that we weren't with you as our audience, and Sarah, sorry I wasn't with you as well as my wonderful co-host. But we'll be back in the saddle. I'll be bringing this to you each and every week, regardless of what's going on. So, Sarah, I got to say, though, you cast a spell on me this morning with your amazing Harry Potter Halloween costume.
This episode is going live on Halloween. I had to come in costume. I am a Slytherin through and through. My dog is currently wearing his Slytherin Quidditch jersey. We are a full on-brand family right now. And happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween, everybody. So if you did get some value out of this episode, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. And that way we can continue to bring you these amazing episodes each and every week. And with that, I'm Larry Roberts.
And I'm a Slytherin. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.